Yo, what's going on, GBA fans? I'm Ben, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host. Introduce yourself.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Manatosh here.
And we are here to bring you the power rankings for Week 3 of GBA Season 9. So, let's hop right in with both of our number 16s in Deathly. So, let's talk about the Hoopa U set. So, same as last week, I feel the set wasn't terrible, but he just tried to set it up way too early this time. And then there was the whole confusion with Z-Trick saying that it failed. He thought he didn't get the speed boost, but Z-Trick, what it does is it tries to trick the user's item with the opponent's item, but that fails because Z-Crystals can't, of course, be tricked. And like you said last week, that's why Z-Snatch is just kind of the better move, because Snatch does have some use sometimes, but Z-Trick will never have, well, the move Trick will never have any use on a Z-Crystal holder.
Exactly, you just get the speed.
Yeah, whereas Snatch can sometimes, like, snatch what? Maybe like a Dragon Dance or a Substitute, something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get pretty lucky, but I mean, it's still that's why it's only a little bit better, but occasionally you can grab something.
And it does something, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when Nate sent in the Naganadel... Did we decide on a pronunciation for that?
I think, well, the thing is, I was thinking about this, and I've seen so many videos where Tom gets told how to pronounce a team name correctly, and he purposefully mispronounces the name for the rest of the season. And Tom was the one who told us how to pronounce Naga Fanel. I think that's how he said it.
What?
And so I'm just gonna pronounce it wrong the whole season, just for Tom.
So, Naganadel, I think?
I mean, I'm just gonna say whatever comes to mind at the moment. I'm literally whatever random thing comes into my head.
Alright, so when Nate sent in the Naganadel, Deathly had to know that... He had to know at that point that it was Choice Scarf. So, Nate knew that the Hoopa was at +2 speed, and he wouldn't just sack off one of his Ubers like that. Plus, the Naganadel outsped the Scarf Staraptor earlier in the game. And speaking of which, let's talk about that. Oh boy, Defensive Scarf Staraptor, my favorite set. So definitely said in team preview that the Scarf Staraptor didn't outspeed the Naganadel or the Mewtwo, but looking at the speed tiers, all Nate really needed to creep with those mons was the Virizion, so when the Naganadel did outspeed the Staraptor on turn 1, that should have told him that the Naga was Scarf. Also because an offensive Scarf Staraptor would have done entirely too much damage to it for Nate to risk when he has a safe switch into Skarmory in the back.
Yeah, exactly. Also, the other thing I had, this is slightly for Nate, but it's also for Deathly, is that a +2 Hooper can outspeed Scarf Nagalala. So he should have had the speed for Scarf Naganda. I even tried to say it right that time and I couldn't. Jesus Christ. And he said that he really wasn't expecting Scarf Naganadel. Yeah, you're welcome, Tom. But Nate got beat back by Scarf Kirim last week. Scarf Kirim got 3 kills last week, so it's pretty likely that Deathly would bring a Scarf Kirim White, even though he got beat by a physical Scarf Kirim Black. They still do quite similar things, and it can still do really well against Nate's team. And for a +1 Flygon, so Scarf Naganadel beats all of those things. So it does actually make sense versus Deathly's team, even though Deathly's team is really slow. Because of the weaknesses that Nate has in his team, it does make sense for him to bring it Scarfed this week. And a bit you touched on with the Z trick is if you bring a move, you have to learn the mechanics.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I can understand making a mistake, but if you're not 100% sure, you haven't used a move before, it's literally easy. Just create 2 Showdown accounts and battle yourself and use the move just so you know exactly what it does. So you know when you can get the good situation. Also, at the end, Deathly made a few plays because he actually had a small chance of winning the match. And he was in with Flygon, I think it was against a Galvantula.
Yeah.
And he was saying that if Flygon gets to +2, which I'm not sure I completely agree with, but he was saying anyway in his mind that if Flygon gets to +2, I can win this game. So, but the only way he wins this game really is if he can set up on the Galvantula. So he should have risked the HP Ice there. Even though I do think Galvantula did have HBI, so he would have gone down, it's worth the risk to try and win the game. And that also leads me on to my next point, which is Scarfed Flygon with no fire move.
The
does
DD
not
Flygon.
beat Skarm. Yeah, sorry, the DD Flygon. He didn't have Fire Punch or anything like that, or he wasn't like Dragon Claw, Fire Punch, Roost, which maybe could beat Skarm, but or even just Fire Punch, or even Fly Blast or Flamethrower. Flygon gets access to those moves. It doesn't really beat Skarm. Skarm is just an absolute monster of a physical wall, and it doesn't break to those things. And last but not least, I don't really know why Kieran White didn't come this match. Like I said before, Nate got beat down by Scarf Kieran. It seemed like a decent matchup. I understand that Kieran B last week was very, very physical, and that's partly why I did well against Nate. But Kieran White is still a huge threat. I mean, has 170 special attack stat, and I really thought Scarf Kieran would have been a really good set this week, potentially over the Scarf Staraptor.
Or just potentially over Flygon, because Kieran White's kind of like a much better dragon.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I changed my mind. Go with that one. Yeah, over the Flygon, which is always ruled by Skarmory.
Yeah, and going back to that Flygon, we were talking about how it got, again, hardwalled by the Skarmory. It's just that he had so many ways he could have dealt with Skarmory. He had a Magnezone on his roster. He could have brought that to trap it and just kill the Skarmory there and make it not a problem for the Flygon. He could have tried to trap it. Well, he did trap it with the Gothitelle towards the end of the game, and instead of continuing to pressure him with Psychic, he just switched out and tried to set up a DD in front of it, which surprisingly kind of worked because Nate didn't have Whirlwind, which was a bit surprising, but yeah, so again, at that point, definitely had to have known that the Naganadel was Scarf, so his only hope was to set up a second Dragon Dance, and then hope that Nate chokes by sending in the Naganadel before the Skarmory, and also this would all have to play out under the assumption that Nate doesn't have HPS on his Galvantula, which I don't remember if he had or not, but it would make sense for him to bring.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up that point as well, because when he went into the Flygon, the turn before he said, I think going Flygon is the best play, and then just click Psychic. And I was like, well, if you think that that's the best play, take a bit of time to consider it, and then make that play. And then he ended up making the play the turn afterwards, and Nate had gone for the Stealth Rocks. So, I mean, to be honest, I think that staying with the Goth and just getting damage, because eventually he's going to get Spadef drop or a crit or something, was the best play, which he already got the Spadef drop, right? So
yeah.
But if you think that something is the best play, don't click the other play. Like if it comes into your mind, take a moment to consider it and talk about it with your audience, and then make the final decision a few seconds after. But other than that, I'm done talking about Deathly.
Yeah, one other thing. What was the reason for bringing Iron Tail? Do you think that was just for the Sylveon? Like,
yeah, that was just for Sylveon. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because if you're, surely his front office knows that if he wants to set up and sweep, he's got to get rid of the Skarmory, and he just had no way of doing that with his team. I just think this was very, very poorly executed.
Yeah.
All right, so shall we move on to both our number 15s and Kyle?
Actually, Kyle played pretty decently this game. To be honest with you, there were no real big mistakes in play. The only thing I could really see that I didn't quite understand is I'm not sure if he thought that Furco was defense and Spadef, because he was a bit taken aback as to how much Tangrowth's Giga Drain did to his Persian Alola. And the first time he stayed in, he read Lars really, really well, going for the double knockoff and getting the knockoff onto the Kieran Black, I believe it was, and getting rid of the Assault Vest, which was super nice for his Blaziken, which was special in very Carl fashion. It was a special Blaziken with Sunny Day on the Klefki. And I think he then went for it again a second time, just staying in on Tangrowth with his Persian. And I think when you've got a player like Lars, you've caught him off once, he's not going to be caught off again. And then he was very surprised how much the Giga Drain did to the Persian, and it kind of took Persian out of the match. But other than that, it was kind of prep. He played really well this game. He even said it in his commentary that he felt he didn't really make any major misplays, and I completely agree. But the prep was Lars prepped super well for Kyle, and Lars, well, this is kind of for Lars, but he took into account what kind of builder Kyle is, knowing that Kyle's not going to bring normal stuff. So he brought the Sap Sipper, knowing that Solar Beam, Power Herb, Blaziken was a was a very likely thing for him to bring, because it's Carl. I mean, he didn't quite go the power herb route, but it's still Carl, and he brought the solar beam. Yeah, other than that, I think it was just slightly in his prep where he lost rather than in his play, because I know he was feeling like he had a good team to win the match. And the only other thing with the prep as well is Sword Dance Basic with Thunder Punch absolutely destroys Lars's team. But at the end of the day, that's just Carl. Like, Carl wants to play that way, so go ahead and play that way. You're not going to bring SD Blaziken, but it was a really good bring this game. Other than that, you did solidly. It's just that I feel like everyone else did a tad bit better than you this week. That's why you're down at 15. That's pretty much it. Yeah, sorry. I kind of went for it. I kind of just went for a ramble. One last thing. At the very end, he should have gunk shot with Greninja, because he went for a ice beam on the Azumarill trying to freeze, but Lars had already revealed Scald, so obviously he was just going to Thor. So should have just gone for the differential.
Yeah, totally. All right, so now we can move on to my number 14 and your number 13 in Nexus. Nexus felt very under-prepped for this match. Like, when you see a Groudon on the opposing roster, you're going to want to bring your resist to, like, fire and ground, but he doesn't bring the Rotom Heat, and that just lets Jolt SD Groudon just go in.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, he was saying, like, after his team got absolutely destroyed by Groudon, he was saying that Zygarde was his only way back into the match, and how he still felt he could win the game with Zygarde. But then he went and just brought in the Zygarde on the Magearna, which is that +1, and he'd already seen was defensive, and then he went Venusaur afterwards, so he definitely should have gone Venusaur first and then gone into the Zygarde to try and pick up the kill. I'm not sure if it would have made a difference anyway, but that was definitely the series of plays that he should have made. And honestly, it's exactly like you said, there's not many talking points here. He played solidly as usual. He doesn't make too many misplays. Well, let's not talk about Danza last week, but it worked out well for him. But he just got out prepped completely. And Jolt's one of the best preppers out there, so it's very tough in the league match when you're not prepped enough, like you said, to come out and pull out the win. One thing that I thought was quite funny though is he complained about Jolt's team being too fat when it has like a hyper offensive aspect to it, and he has Celesteela, Mega Venusaur, Boswell, and Zygarde 100% all on his team. But other than that, that's pretty much all I've got to say about Nexus.
All right, and going back to your point before about how he sacked off the Zygarde to the Magearna, had he just gone into the Venusaur in the first place and the rest of the game played out the way it did, he sends in the Zoroark and flinches Jolt's entire team to death almost.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Zygarde could have potentially won him that game against just the Groudon and the Mew.
Yeah, because Groudon got flinched, I think it could have done, and it could have got a DD up against Groudon probably.
Yeah, it certainly would have been a much closer game, but
it should have been a much closer game. Although the one thing I would say is I would have thought that Nexus would have gone Zygarde on the Aero, so potentially the flinches wouldn't have happened if he still had Zygarde.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But then again, Aero could have Ice Fang, so maybe he would have gone Zoroark. I don't know. It's all theory money, to be honest.
But he certainly would have had a much better shot, of course. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, you've always got a better shot if you've got a Zygarde 100% on your team. Let's move on to your number 13 and my number 14. And that is Danza. Why don't you go ahead and take Danza?
Alright. When I see an unoptimal EV spread, I have to nerd out. Alright, so let's talk about this Genesect for a sec. He was Hasty Nature with 252 attack, 76 special attack, 12 SPDF, 36 speed. His highest stat number was the attack with a stat of 172. If he ran a Lonely Nature, that's plus attack and minus defense, and he hit 172 for his stat, he would only need 132 attack investment in the EVs. To hit 136 speed, the stat, he would need 132 EVs for his investment without the boosted nature. That leaves him with an extra 24 EVs that he can throw into whatever stat he wants. Boom, pow, free stats. Also, as a side note, he brought a fully SPDF Florges for the Mega Latias and the Yveltal, but Latias could just very easily run Psyshock in the matchup, and as we saw, it did have Psyshock, which would completely blow back the Florges. Other than that, to be honest, Danza did keep the game sort of close. It's a shame he wasn't able to get those rolls in his favor, but like I've said in the past weeks, I feel like his team has so many holes in it that he has to prep and play absolutely perfectly if he wants to have a shot at winning. Even though he's 0-3, I still think he's somewhat of a threat.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. It's not Danza that's making him 0-3, it's his team.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I absolutely, and I mean, he has been unfortunate as well, but I do think the team is the main thing. I absolutely loved the Palkia set. That was really cool. That worked out really well, and was able to heal block the Porygon. I really like that. One thing I just could not believe that he brought. I mean, Danza, okay, you missed a high jump kick in week 1. What did he miss? A Zen headbutt, I think, in week 2. So I'm only going to miss in 3 of my matches, whatever. But you have one shot at a league match, and Magma Storm. I mean, if he missed versus the Metagross on the Magma Storm, he was in really bad shape. Really bad shape. And I'm not sure if Magma Storm 80 or 75.
I think it's 75.
Yeah, God, man. Yeah, Magma Storm's a bad move. I don't like that move at all. Also, I get why Danza was mad when Randy went into the Latias on the Gengar. But looking at it from Randy's perspective, it was his best way of dealing with a sub Gengar, which is a really good bring versus Randy's team. So it wasn't actually a misplay from Randy, I don't feel. And also, I know, I'll leave that point for Randy. But Randy had a point where he could have won the game because Danza went for Mega Horn onto the Lati. As Randy should have gone into his Ape there. If he had, he wins the game. So I feel like Danza shouldn't have gone Genesect. Although it did work out well and he had a very good chance to win the game because he had a 50-50 with Ape, which was really unfortunate. I still think that he should have made a play. I don't know if he had anything to deal with Ape left. I can't remember.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember either.
But if he did, he should have gone into the thing that dealt with Ape. So that's all I have to say on Danza. Are you ready to move on?
Sure thing.
Both of our number 12s in Tom.
Yep.
So, Tom. I don't know. This is tough because Tom, I feel really bad for Tom in this match. He played a really solid match. Honestly, he didn't make many mistakes until we get to the end game. Yes, Asta got very unfortunate and that kept Tom in the game. But I'll get on to Asta later. I thought he played absolutely immaculately. To be honest with you, I thought Asta played really, really well. But the big, obviously, I'm going to dive straight into the big talking point of this game is that Tom clicked Bullet Punch on a Rotom Wash that was pretty low and it didn't kill, which meant that Asta could burn the Lucario and it won Asta the game. Tom probably would have won the game if he just clicked Meteor Mash or Close Combat or any other move pretty much that killed the Rotom. It was super, super low. And I think the reason that happened is that Tom, to me, isn't the normal Tom. He doesn't look like he's feeling very comfortable using the Mega Lucario. I mean, it's hard to say because maybe it's just that, I don't know if he's had time to prep or something like that, but to me it feels like he's uncomfortable with it. Even when he's talking about it in his commentary, he just feels uncomfortable using the Mega Lucario there. And that's why I think he clicked BP. Maybe he didn't have time to calc, I don't know. Or maybe he obviously thought the BP would kill, but it didn't. So that's basically what lost him the game. He got loads of hacks in his favor, but he clicked Bullet Punch on a Rotom. I don't know what to say. That lost him the game pretty much.
Yeah. How much health was the Rotom at that point? Like, do you remember the about how much percent? I can only see moves in the red.
If I remember correctly, it was either like the majority red, like a healthy red, if you get me.
Yeah.
Or a really unhealthy orange.
Oh. Yeah. Then Bullet Punch should have never killed him from there.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he read it wrong. Which he won't have been the only coach this week to have to not have read the HP properly. But we'll get on to Tup later. So shall we move on to? Is it both? Wow, we're doing well with our list this week.
Nice.
Both of our number 11s in Nate. I've said every week, like, Nate was either one play or one bit of prep, a tiny bit of prep away from winning his games. And I believed in him and he did it. I'm really happy that he won a game.
I think he choked a bit in prepped by not bringing Whirlwind on the Skarmory. So at the end there, had the Flygon been the right set with Fire Punch, basically what I'm trying to say is it would have made it easier for him to deal with because he could have just Whirlwinded it out and he could make sure that the Skarmory stayed in against the Flygon, continued to click Whirlwind so that no matter what, even if Deathly did finally kill the Skarmory, he'd be able to send in the Naganadel and be able to safely revenge.
Also would have been really clean if Deathly tried to switch in the Magna Zone onto the Skarm, and he kicks Whirlwind, then he doesn't get trapped.
Yeah, that too. And I don't remember. I don't think he had Shed Shell this week, did he?
I don't think so, but he doesn't do a team builder.
Yeah.
So,
but if he did have Shed Shell, that would have made it a lot easier to pivot around again.
Yep,
yeah, the Mag
that is
Zone
true.
Still.
And I'm not sure if he had Shed Shell or not. I can't remember. I can't remember if I saw lefties. Something small with Nate. Well, two small things really. Is one, you don't really need webs versus Deathly's team, especially if you're bringing Scarf Nagandagel. Tom's gonna hate me. Oh my god. I felt like he controlled the game from the start. He played Scarf Naga really well, like really well. And it really caught Deathly off guard. Not that it really should have, but it did. Also, he said that like at the end, I can completely understand apologizing for hacks. But at the end, he said like, "Oh, I got a bit lucky this week, and that's why I won." I don't feel like that's the case at all. The burn on the Aggron really didn't matter that much. Like, I just don't think it changed the game one bit, really. Aggron was pretty much going to go down anyway. I think it went down to the Galvantula's move the next turn. So, it really didn't make much difference other than a little bit more damage with the Dragon Tail that he got. He didn't have to make any big plays this game, which is basically, as I say, pretty much every week is a sign that you've built a really solid team. So congrats for that. The only small thing I have for him is he went into his Scarf Nagandagel on the +2 Hooper. And the Hooper, I know it didn't, but the Hooper should have had enough speed for the Naga there. Which means he would have just gone for the Psychic and completely blown out one of his S tier mons. So I get that it worked out fine, and I get that maybe he wasn't expecting Deathly to expect Scarf, but I feel like that's too big of a stretch, man.
Yeah, that's certainly a risky play. I don't know exactly how much investment Deathly would have needed to be able to outspeed a Scarf Naganadel.
Pretty much max.
Yeah, max.
I mean, if you have a mon and you're trying to sweep with it, you want it to outspeed and it's going to +2 speed, you want it to outspeed your opponent's Scarfers. He obviously wasn't going to bring Scarf Mewtwo this week, but like I said before, Scarf Nagandagel made sense because he got bopped by a Kiram last week. So
yeah, now we can move on to your number 10 and my number 9, and that's Goldoa.
Cool. So Goldoa, I don't really know what happened to him this game, to be honest with him. And when I say what happened to him, I don't mean like that he didn't show up or he didn't play well or he didn't prep well. I just felt like he prepped well. I felt like he played pretty good, but he just sort of ended up losing. And I know that's something, but so that's my biggest complaint about Goldoa this week is that he went behind in this match, and I'm not sure if he really had the best matchup this week, to be honest. But he went behind in this match, and at no point did he make until the very end, when he was hoping he'd had to make a play and that Tup would choke, which Tup did. He should have made a play before that to try and get himself back into the match, but he never really made that play, and that is my biggest thing with him this week, is when you've got to, I guess, figure out when you're in the back and when you need to make the big plays. And I felt like he was in the back and he did have to make a big play, and it was a bit too late when he started pulling his double into Lele at the end. I think he should have got Lele in more this game. It does so much damage to all of Tup's team, and Tup was obviously very willing to let Scizor get weakened down without clicking Roost. I don't think he clicked Roost once this game. The only other thing in prep is it seemed like Zapdos and Donphan had so much pressure this game. Zapdos had to deal with Scizor and Shaman, which both can pressure it out and can U-turn, or Scizor can U-turn, and Shaman's going to be doing a lot of damage, especially if he gets a Spadef drop with Seed Flare and has a hidden power for Zapdos. And then Donphan has to deal with Entei, Zeraora, and Diggersby. And Donphan doesn't get reliable recovery. So in prep there, I think that they had too much to do this game, if that kind of makes sense, because I know he still needs to have options for these things, but I felt like they had too much pressure on them this game. Also, Miltank did a lot of work this game. I was so surprised. It completely just like body slam stuff and did a good job. I felt like Toxic on Superior would have been really nice over Leech Seed this game, because then he can sub up on he was defensive Superior, which is a really clean bring, so that body slam Miltank didn't 2-hit KO the sub. No, did 2-hit KO the sub, didn't 1-hit KO the sub. And if he was toxic, he just wins that battle, and Tup has not got a lot left for a superior behind a sub. I think the other big difference this week with Goldoa is I didn't see a clear game plan from start to finish, which he normally does, and he normally executes it really, really well. I didn't quite see that in the same way this week. But other than that, no major misplays, still prepped really solidly, to be honest, and I'm sure he's going to get back up the rankings in no time. And of course the crit on Dolphin and the burn sucked, but it's Sacred Fire, so you kind of got to expect it to burn. But the crit sucked, so he couldn't spin away his rocks. But other than that, that's Goldoa for me.
Yeah, I certainly hope, and I kind of expect Goldoa will bounce back from this. He's proven that he is a good player, and he knows what he's doing. Like you were saying, the defensive superior was a really, really nice bring. So I look forward to seeing what Goldoa does from here.
Yeah, for sure. I think he'll be on the rise. But talking about being on the rise, let's talk about your number 10 and my number 9 in Tup, who actually played Goldoa this week. So that's quite easy for us. I'm going to try and talk about this game in two halves, because Tup played the early game really well, which is what I'm going to talk about first. He got a solid toxic on the Zapdos, which he noticed was a problem, and wearing it down would be lovely for his team, because he can wear it down by U-turning on it with Sizzle, like I mentioned before. And it was a solid play because he was Scarf Shaman. So it was a bit risky, but it paid off really, really well. He also said that he had trouble in testing or mocks with sub 3 attacks Dialga, but then Dialga comes in on the Miltank and Tup goes for Thunder Wave. So if you're scared of that set, you know he's going to sub there. So you either go into something like he did before, even go into the Entei, which is what he did afterwards, sorry, not before, don't know why I got that the wrong way around, and then you're able to take moves and break the sub, or you go for an attacking move. I'm not sure if the Miltank had Earthquake this week, I don't think it did. So, and I don't think, to be honest, Dialga's so bulky, it might not even break the sub, I don't know. But I feel like just going Entei on there was the play, not going for the T-Wave. But it worked out fine, because Entei was able to really pressure the Dialga, and luckily Goldoa didn't have D-Pulse, which maybe would have 2-hit KO'd the Entei. I'm not entirely sure on the calcs. Then Tup, there was a different time where the Dialga gets behind a sub, and Tup, very smartly in my opinion, goes for the Z move, the Z fighting on the substitute, so that he doesn't get the Spadef drop, and so that Dialga can't take him out. That was the right play. I know Tup said in his commentary that because Goldoa wasn't running Stab, which he didn't know at the time, it wasn't the wrong play, because he could have chewed the Ice Beam even at -1, then could have killed with a Z move. But you didn't know that, man. So definitely the Zero play was the correct play. But now we get to the end game. Where to start with this end game, Tup? You had this game because you played so solidly in the early game. You had this game in the bag. Sizzle, you know it's Scarf Lele. Sizzle is the one thing that takes a Psychic from Scarf Lele. You bring it in, and it's in range where it can only take one more Psychic after Stealth Rocks. So if you switch it out without roosting and then bring it back in, it's not going to take the hit. So you should have roost there. And then when you didn't roost, you clicked Toxic when he had a Lele and a Superior left. So why not U-turn? Then you get loads of damage on the Superior, and you can go out into Shaman afterwards. So again, not sure about that. And then when he makes the double back out into Lele, you go into Sizz and just sack it. It can still take one more Psychic, so you have to sack something else, like your Miltank or your Diggersby, which you still had left. Diggersby's not going to be able to get a quick attack off because of Psychic Surge, so definitely just sack the Diggersby, then go into Sizzle, then Roost. It was just so weird. He forgot the Psychic Surge wasn't up, so he calced wrong and ended up just sacking 3 of his Mons for absolutely no reason at the end. I know that's unfair. It was 2 Mons, I think. Although he sacked the Sizzle for no reason, so kind of 3. And then we get to the last turn, where he has his Shaman Sky in against a Tapu Lele, which is so clearly at just 50%. In my opinion, it's very clear. Tup said he thought it was 58%, so I can see why he air slashed. But Seed Flare always kills from that range. I know it's 85% accurate, but that's higher than the 60% chance to flinch and the 5% chance to miss. But even I calced it as well. If he's Goldoa can be Scarfed and be Modest this game. So it's a very good chance he doesn't have HP investment, which means that no HP to no HP Lele, Tups Seed Flare set does 58 to 68%, which means 100% Seed Flares a play. Then Tups said he count being very generous with HP. So I did the same thing. I did if he creeped Tups creeps and then put the rest in HP and didn't put it modest. That would leave Lele with 116 HP, which means that the Seed Flare does 52 to 62%. So even then, even if Goldoa puts all that HP in, it's still almost a 50-50 roll. No, I would say a 70-30 roll in Goldoa's favor, but that's only if you put all that HP in. So all those things have to happen for that to occur. So Seed Flaring there was 100% the play, but you're like you said, believe in the hacks. Always believe in the hacks. He's got the flinch core, and he went off on it basically, and he won the game through that. Was extremely hype, but not the play. But yeah, I don't want to take away from the early game as well. I feel like maybe I should have. I mean, it's weird to end with the early game, but Tup played really well in the early game. So cool, good for you, man.
No, I guess we can move on to
your number 8 and my number 7, which is Necro, I believe.
So Necro started off the season 2-0, and he played the 2-0 Cybertron. So that was certainly an exciting battle to watch.
I completely agree with you, though. It was such a good game to watch. I literally have as one of my bullet points on my notes, just like really good game from both guys. And oh god, every week I mean to say this, but Necro's voice is just like a dream.
Whoa.
It's like a dream, man. It's so nice. He's got such a good commentary voice. Jesus. It's unbelievable. I'm so jealous. I'm actually so jealous. So going into Necro, I'm not sure why he stayed in. He stayed in on a low punny with his Hydreigon, and Aaron predicted him to switch out, so it worked out. I'm clicking return. I actually watched Aaron's first before I watched Necro's. So I was like, oh, he must be Chopple. And then when I went over to Necro's and I saw that he was Zemu, like, wait, why did you stay in with your Hydreigon on a low punny? It worked out really well for him because he managed to get a Draco off. But if Hydreigon was had more HP, it would have been really nice in the late game because he could have taunt and then wore down the Toxapex, which was the only thing stopping his Xerneas from sweeping, really. And he had taunt, which is really nice. It was really good prep. But just letting him get worn down there. I know you didn't have the best switch-ins to the low punny, but I think you even said it in your commentary that you wish Hydra had more health, and maybe that was one way that it could have had the health. The 2 min rolls and Xerneas onto the Toxapex really sucked going for the Thunderbolt. That was really a pain. And also, I originally thought that I was like, why didn't he bring Psyshock, knowing that Tup's going to bring a Spadef Toxapex, but then I was looking, not Tup, sorry. What am I saying? Aaron. But I was looking at Aaron's team and I was like, actually, no. Like, there are some things that Thunderbolt makes sense for. Actually, I'm just looking down his team again. I don't really know what I was thinking. Because you have Moonblast for Rayquaza. Yeah, I definitely think Psyshock was the play. I think you should have had Psyshock in prep. Wow, that's a last-minute decision from me, I'm not going to lie. But let's hope that I've got it right there. I'm not really sure. But like I said anyway, you could have gone for maybe another Calm Mind, potentially, to ensure the 2-hit KO on Pex early doors when it first switched in. But I understand why you didn't, because you thought I'd have to get 2 min rolls and it's better to keep health on Xerneas, especially since it was toxic at the time. He had Hydreigon in on Pex, it had Ice Beam, Hydreigon had really low health, and he clicked Taunt expecting the recover, but Toxapex still had really high HP, so I think he should have just blown the Z move and done as much damage to the Toxapex as it could. And then last but not least, you mentioned this even in your commentary as well, is that you sacked the Fortress to low punny for basically no reason at all. You just switched it in and sacked it off. Whereas if you switch it in the Age Slash, it could have done what it was supposed to do and what you built it for. So just slightly not executing your prep to perfection. But like I said, you're still really high up because you played solidly, you prepped solidly, and it was 2-2-0 teams going at it. So you can't get knocked too much for that, I don't think.
Exactly, yeah. So now I guess we can just move on to
my number 8 and your number 6. And this, I mean, this was a good game. MV and Leo.
Oh boy, yeah.
So I'm sure you'll agree, but last week we said that, was it last week? Yeah, Jolt and Randy could have been the game of the season. I think this is joint. This was a really good game. I would say it wasn't as exciting as Jolt and Randy's, but Jolt and Randy's was partly exciting because of hacks.
Yeah.
And just how close it came down to. But this was just as close as that match. And I watched this match a couple times, and I couldn't really, like, it was a bit like the Goldberg match. I couldn't really figure out how Envy won. It was just like so punch for punch that, and he just ended up in the better position. I think one big play was going in with his Scarf Keldeo and clicking the toxic tech onto the Medicham, which just enabled his, how did Envy put it? His environmentalist muck, just clicking recycle over and over again. Able to wear down the Medicham and basically stall out Leo's team for the win. Thankfully, he didn't get crit. Leo went, I would say 10. It's just a rough estimate. I would say 10 drain punches. So luckily, no crit from Envy there. He definitely did not deserve to get crit just because of all the last week's hacks that have gone down. And I think he slightly out-prepped Leo this week. Like the recycle muck is just so clean. This is what we expect from Envy. No hacks. Really good game against a really solid. I mean, he was both our number ones for the first 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Leo. Yeah, so he knocked down the number one. Really good job, man. If he keeps doing this, he'll keep climbing. It's Envy, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I couldn't put him much lower than like 8th and 9th last week and in past weeks.
Yeah, and that's why this week you've got him at 6, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's still Envy at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's Envy. He's been, how many finals? Was he in 2 finals?
I've lost track.
I've lost track, yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Let's take your number 7.
And your number 6, Aster.
Partly, I want to touch, briefly on why I had Envy below Necro and Aster. One, I thought Aster played this game just amazingly, and I felt like he really deserved praise this week. So that's why I put him above Envy. And Necro as well, like I said before, we both agreed. Played a 2-0 team, he was a 2-0 team. I couldn't knock him too much. But Aster, oh my god. Okay, this was awesome. Like, you got hacks to shit. Like, oh my god. Like, there was so much hacks in this game, and you were still able to pull out the win. Yes, you got a bit lucky that Tom clicked Bullet Punch, but you still had a chance to win that game. Yes, Tom could have won the game, and not clicking Bullet Punch lost in the game. But I still think that he could have won the match, even if Tom hadn't clicked Bullet Punch. I still think there were chances for him. And he, like I said, he controlled the game really, really well from the start. He played through the hacks amazingly, and and honestly, considering it was the hacks, it was a really, really comfortable win. Like, really, really comfortable. All of his sets were super clean, had multiple rolls. Because his prep was so good, he was able to play through the hacks. It wasn't like he made many crazy plays to put himself back in. It was just his prep that completely carried him through, to be honest with you. Definitely his trades are way better. He said at the end of the video, like, what do you think? Lunala, I was talking with him, actually, about whether Lunala or Necrozma Dawnwings was going to be better. And like just looking at the set, like Roost, like all of this stuff that it gets, I think it was Will-O-Wisp it gets as well, was just so clean. Like, yeah, definitely Lunala is the better Mon, and I'm so glad he picked up Stoutland. I love Stoutland so much. So
it makes a lot more sense on the team than Articuno did. That's for sure. Exactly.
Yeah, that's literally what I said to him. I was like, you literally just abuse your sound with it. So I'm really impressed with Aster this game. I think if like he could be 3-0 really, because Aaron got a bit lucky against him last week, and I think that he's going to be a pretty dark horse this season. So let's look out for Aster. Like, really good job, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would leave us at, wow, a bit of a jump. Both of our number 5s, that would be Jolt.
Indeed.
So we already spoke a little bit about Jolt, but you can tell them about how Groudon just went in.
Yeah, so Groudon just kind of went in. Jolt saw that all he needed to do was set up an SD because, again, the Rotom wasn't there. So he could just kind of keep clicking buttons, and then when Nexus sent in the Mimikyu, which of course can obviously take a hit due to its disguise, he just roared it out on the SD because he knew that Nexus would try to set up an SD, then probably just click the Z move in front of the Groudon, try to just get rid of it that way. But instead, he just roars it out so that he doesn't have to sack his Groudon like that, and all of a sudden he's just pressuring another Mon on Nexus' team, and he just like killed the Celesteela right there with Fire Punch. So yeah, that was just like executed perfectly.
Yeah, like the roar on Groudon with the Sword Dance was just such nice prep, and it worked perfectly. Obviously a tiny bit fortunate, Celesteela was probably the best thing that could have come in, I think, at that point.
Yeah, I think so too.
Which is a tiny bit fortunate, but I mean that's the way roar works, and he definitely took advantage of it really, really well. The other thing I have about this match is Magina is broken as hell. I know that it's Fizz Death, but it shouldn't be able to take 1,000 arrows from an Adamant Zygarde and then a hidden Power Fire from a Mega Venusaur. And it wasn't even at full. Like, that's just ridiculous. And it killed both of them. Like, just, what a mon, man. Such a great mon.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this before, but it's one of those mons where it's always going to be at least good, but when in the right hands, it's just insane. That's
exactly the point. And, like, when you say in the right hands, it's all about prep. And Jolt is, like I said before, just one of the best preppers out there. So, it's going to be really deadly in his hand. That's for sure. One play, and normally I haven't actually disagreed with any play that Jolt has made this season, but at the very beginning of the game, Jolt stayed in with his Incineroar, staying in on a Primarina, which could have done a lot of damage. I know he said that his spread was able to live, but like I said, I feel like it still had a lot of use that match. It would have been really good for Mimikyu. I know Groudon dealt with the Mimikyu, but Jolt didn't know that was going to happen. It was good for Celesteela as well, Mimikyu and the Zoroark, depending on its coverage and depending on Zoroark's coverage as well. I feel like it chewed hits and intimidated them quite well. So that's the only thing. It was a very aggressive play, but also as aggressively Nexus played his Primarina last week. I can kind of understand the play more so because like Nexus did overpredict and go for the Toxic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Punishing the aggressive play.
But like I said, I think Incineroar still had the decent uses this match. So yeah, but other than that, obviously it was amazing. The Groudon prep was amazing. It was, I mean, it was a 2-0, but it was an absolutely dominant performances. The flinches scared the crap out of me. Because I watched his side before Nexus's side, and I was literally like, no, Jolt, you poor man. You poor guy. And then finally he broke through, and I was like, thank the Lord for that.
I guess now we can move on to my number 4 and your number 2 in Leo.
Yeah.
Well, Leo certainly dropped a few places. Certainly not because of poor performance, but rather just, like you said last week, it's gonna take Leo losing for him to drop any places on our lists, and yeah, that's what happened.
I feel like because I've got Leo still at second place, I feel like people are going to want me to explain why I've got him above two other 3-0 teams in Aaron and Randy.
Mm-hmm.
And basically because one, like Leo lost at Envy, and I don't think Leo made very many mistakes in this match, or if any. Whereas I feel like Randy and Aaron both still made mistakes and have made mistakes in the last matches, whereas Leo has pretty much been flawless. So based on that, I decided to keep Leo up at second, rather than dropping him to like you below the 3-0 teams at fourth. Although I can completely see, like, it goes back to the point you made. I think it was in week one. Like, at the end of the day, if you won, you won, and you lost, you lost. So
yeah.
I was kind of 50-50 with it, but I decided to keep him up. And I said against Envy as well, this match went by so fast. It was so punch for punch. And I just don't feel like Leo made many misplays. It was just Envy playing well, Envy getting realizing at the end that he needed the Toxic on the Medicham, and that because Leo didn't have high jump kick, which potentially could have been a slight miss prep on Leo's part. But at the same time, I mean, he probably would have missed. let's be honest.
Let's be real here.
Let's be real here. Yeah, he would have missed in that situation. And it's a bit like you said, like he still played super solidly this game. The only one thing I think he could have done differently, and I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, it actually makes no difference to the end result. But I think he could have gone Marshadow on the Keldeo to take the Scald and then outspeed. But then, if he goes for the Toxic, then you have Marshadow in. But at the end of the day, if he does click Scald, I don't know if that kills Marshadow. It probably 2-hit kills Marshadow, and then you have to take a Scald with Medicham. So yeah, I don't know. It was a pretty tough situation. It maybe could have been the play, but you'd have to hard read a Toxic, I guess, which isn't really feasible. So like I said, he didn't really make any misplays. I was literally just trying to find something as to the reason why he lost. And that was all I could.
Yeah.
That was all I could make out, to be honest with you.
It's more so that MV played immaculately. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said with Goldoa, I felt like Goldoa had to make a play to get himself out of the situation. But like in this game, there wasn't really opportunities to make plays because it was just so offensive and so punch for punch. It was really hard to be making plays in this match to get himself back ahead. And he could have crit. I mean, if you go for 10 moves, you're almost giving yourself, I don't know the exact mass, but a 50-50 chance of critting. Critting 6%, right?
I think it's 4.25%, something like that.
Oh, is it? Okay. All right. It's less than 10 then.
Yeah, I think that was just changed in Gen 7.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, good to know. We've all learned something new.
Yay.
Shall we move on?
Move on to both of our number 3s in Cybertron.
Ah, yeah, Aaron.
Aaron has had quite an amazing season thus far.
Yeah, this has been unbelievable compared to last season.
Yeah, especially compared to last season.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it every week. I'm about 90% sure that Aaron doesn't watch these videos. Otherwise, he would have done it by now. But shiny Rayquaza.
Someday.
Someday it will happen.
Maybe.
The Cybertron lords will praise me from above. And talking about last season, one problem I'm starting to see with Aaron is that last season he got very predictable. And this season he's only brought 7 mons in 3 games. Yeah, this week was the first week he hasn't brought the same 6. This is the first week Toxapex has come, and that was the only new member.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Aaron, not that you're listening. Otherwise, if you are listening, shiny Rayquaza. We've got to see some diversity here. Otherwise, the coaches are all really good players. They're very experienced draft league players, and they're gonna be able to catch on that you're bringing these mons very, very regularly, and they're gonna be able to take advantage of that. So if you want to start beating, especially the higher ranked players on this list, you've got to bring some diversity.
Yeah,
100%.
If you just have to prep for like 6 or 7 mons, it just becomes so much easier to run through teams.
Exactly. Especially with like a sweeper or something, you know, like, oh, he's not going to bring this. He's not going to bring his Gligar, so I can definitely afford Yachi Berry on my Salamence or whatever.
Exactly.
And before people get mad, I said Salamence because Asta and Aaron have already played, so I'm not handing out tactics there.
Oh, yeah.
He said he expected Fortress and Rotom Mow, but then said he didn't really prep for them. So like, it's not even like he didn't prep for something that he just really wasn't expecting. He just sort of thought they were 2 mons that could come, and he'd understand why they'd come, but then he decided not really to prep for them anyway. Which I thought was a bit weird. Like, if you think a mon can come, prep for it, even if it's just a small thing. Then yeah. Also, he said he was surprised when Rotom stayed in and clicked Willow on a Mamo, but Rotom outspeeds Mamo, so it makes 100% sense. Assuming he was speedy Rotom, or that he knew he wouldn't be speedy Mamo. Yeah, so all of that was mostly prep, but that's one play. Other than that, really solid game. And also, I'm not sure about trading Aegislash for a Tentacruel in the match. He sacked Aegislash for getting rid of Tentacruel, and he said that he didn't have the best gold switchings, and that's why he did it. But like, Aegislash was pretty good this match, and like Necro, if you look at Necro's side, he's like, oh, I don't have much for Aegislash, so I specifically brought this Tentacruel to deal with Aegislash. And then Aaron just sort of lets the Tentacruel do what it's supposed to do, which really opened the door for things like Necro's Xerneas in the late game. If it had Psyshock, then it probably would have KO'd Toxapex, and Aaron would have been in trouble. However, if he'd still have Aegislash around, a lot less trouble. But other than that, honestly, a really solid game. Like, you're my number 3, so that's extremely high. I'm imagining he was never number 3 last season. I don't know if you can remember.
I don't remember, but I would assume not.
I was assuming that his record wasn't that great. I know he started okay last season, but
yeah, I think he started 2-2 last season, but then he just kind of went downhill from there.
Okay. So yeah, you're 3-0, man. Congratulations. Like, keep up the good work.
So with that, I guess we can move on to my number 2 and your number 4 of Randy.
Perfect. Okay. This was interesting, this game with Danza. The frustration I thought was really cool tech, because he could come in on a Flogris and get the attack raised and just go for the frustration and 2-hit KO it, which is really clean. And he sacked Rose pretty early game to Palkia, which when I first saw that, I was a bit like, like you kind of just sacked that for no reason because you were surprised at how much damage it did. It could have gone either way, and it's Palkia. It's going to be picking up kills. Danza finally managed to get Palkia to get a kill in week 3. So I thought that was pretty funny. Like one of the biggest threats on his team. And I really like the Lati play in the Gengar. Like I said with Danza, I can see why people might be a bit like, why would you go Latias on the obvious Shadow Ball? But it is an obvious Shadow Ball. So there's a very good chance that he subs there. And if he subs there and Randy goes Yveltal, he's in a really bad spot. Because it's obviously going to be Z-move Gengar. Randy said in his team builder, it's his best way of dealing with the Yveltal as a kind of lure. So he was fully aware of what Danza was going to do, and I think he played around it really, really well. But then we come to the play, which I kind of touched upon with Danza. Danza had a Scarf Bulu in on Lati, and he went for the Mega Horn, and Lati lived. And then Randy said, oh, cool. I just win with Ape, I get a Flame Charge off, and I win. But the grassy terrain's up, so you're going to get recovery with the Infernape, and Mega Horn is 4 times resisted, and you know it's Scarf. So just go hard into the Infernape there. Especially several times Randy had said, he's probably going to go Genesect here, and Randy even surfed so that he'd get more damage on the Genesect. And then Genesect Shift Gear, which Randy, in his commentary, said was a threat, so it's not like he didn't consider it. And it could have won the game.
Yeah,
it could have won the game there. So if he goes Infernape on that switch, Randy wins the game. He flame charges, it takes out the Genesect, and he just wins. It worked out in the end, but it nearly went badly. If Danza had got the 50-50 with Genesect, he would have lost that game. He had an opportunity not to lose that game through making that double. It wasn't a double, through making the switch, basically. And one last thing, which is a small thing, and to be completely honest, the only reason I know it is because I saw it in the comment section. I can't remember the name of the person who said it, but someone noticed in the comment section that you can see the color of the plate on Genesect's back in game.
Whoa, really?
And that tells you what Technoblast Genesect is running.
I never knew that. That's amazing.
No, neither did I. So I'm not trying to say like, oh, Randy, you should have known, but for future reference, Randy, now you know. And that's kind of a small thing because like I'm not sure many people would know that. Other than that, you played really, really well, Randy. Like you're on absolute fire. I can completely understand why Ben has you as his number 2. You've been playing amazing, so congratulations, man.
All right, and with that, I suppose we can move on to both of our number 1s. Lars has just been tearing up the league, man.
Yeah, Lars has really been tearing up the league.
When your Sheer Force Lando Eye, when your Sheer Force Lando Eye just clicks defog in a game and does nothing else, then you know that you just slapped your opponent.
Yeah, but the thing is Lars has been slapping all of his opponents. Like he beat Danza 5-0, a good game with Nate actually, but he had control for most of the game, and then he absolutely slapped Carl this game.
Yep.
Like you said, he's been absolutely tearing up the league. I said last week, I literally said Lars, the only way you get to number 1 is if that you win and Leo loses.
And boom.
And here we are. Here we are. The thing I did have to comment on, a bit like you said, all that Lando I did was click defog this game. And I think that's almost a bit we both said in week 0 in team analysis that he might struggle with defog. So he did manage to find a way around it this week because he didn't want to bring the Mandibuzz. But it is showing how it can be a pain in the ass to him, because if he really needed an offensive move there on the Lando, that would have been a really annoying prep situation for him to be in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, he didn't. He prepped perfectly, so I can't really. Paris Trap Azu with Solar Beam, predicting the Solar Beam with Sap Sipper, predicting the Solar Beam Blaziken. Lars, that's beautiful, man.
That's
I love that.
10,000 IQ.
Yeah, man, like just opening his third eye. Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Bringing the obscure stuff just to catch the obscure stuff that Kyle's gonna bring.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I said this against Kyle. Lars took, and every week he does this, he takes his opponent into account. I really like that in prep. It's a really smart thing to do. It's quite a hard thing to do. but it's very smart, and he did it unbelievably well this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, like I said when I did Carl played well this game, and Lars still smacked him. That's how well Lars is playing in prepping. I'd say it's more in prep, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
Not to knock his playing, he's still playing unbelievably.
Exactly.
But his prep this game was unreal. It was so good. Basically, all I'm going to say is keep up the good work, man. I wonder how many weeks he can stay at number 1, because now it's other people's jobs to knock Lars from number 1 rather than knocking Leo off.
Exactly.
So let's see. But other than that, I think that's going to be all from both of us. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video. And make sure you are subscribed to all the coaches, which will hopefully, maybe, probably be in the comment section down below. Description, not in the comment section. Yeah, I'm not. we're not posting that every week.
Or both.
Make sure, if you guys want, you can comment your 16 your power rankings in the comment section down below. I'll be sure to take a look at that. I'm sure Ben will as well.
Always.
But other than that, you got anything else to say?
That's
perfect. Every week, let's do this.
Cool.
We'll see you guys next week.